Wonderful. So, hello everybody. I'm sure we'll have a few of you have been here listening to us already for a few minutes. Thank you to everyone who's turned up. We'll sort of start a little bit slowly, just waiting for the stragglers to come along. So, I'm Michael. I own HMDG, which is a clinical marketing company. We work with clinics around the country. This is Danny. He works for Nookal. Don't worry, he's not going to sit here the entire time trying to sell you a system. Won't allow him to do that. But I thought it was really interesting to have someone, a representative from a booking platform along, to have a little bit of a chat with me, because I think just to sort of talk through why, because it is a strange one. Why am I so excited and interested in booking platforms for clinicians? Well, let's start with that. So from my perspective, when you're running clinic marketing campaigns, whether that's through Google Ads or Facebook or whatever platform you're using, and also actually if you're designing websites and you're doing this fantastic job in getting people to a website, if your booking system isn't right, you aren't going to get the value that you could get. So as a really plain example, if you get 1,000 people to your website organically, just through people searching on Google, you get 1,000 people to the website, you should be getting somewhere roughly around a 5% conversion rate of people who are booking through into your system. Now, a 1% difference between a good system and a bad system can make all the difference. So it's not it's not just about something that looks pretty. It's actually really, really crucial, particularly if you're spending money on marketing campaigns. You spend £500 on a I don't know, month of Google Ads. Let's say just roughly, just hypothetically, it's £1 a click. You send 500 people into your website. 100 of them click through onto the Book Now button and they get to your booking platform. Normally you would want somewhere around a 30%. So, 30 people from that you would want to have booking into your booking platform. If it's not very good, if you lose 5, that's the difference. Just 5, in fact, even 2 or 3 can make all the difference between profit and loss and the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful campaign. So it's really close to my heart because, with myself and my team, we are here to help clinicians with their marketing. We're here to help clinicians generate as much business as possible and make sure that their websites convert perfectly. And it is an absolute, let's just say it's really frustrating when we build an incredible website, we see all the traffic going through to the booking system, and then people are, one thing we're seeing a lot of on some systems in particular, a lot of people would pick up the phone to call and to book an appointment. And that's not the point of online booking. You're bringing online booking in to get people to book online. So if they're calling, you may as well not have the booking system at all. And what's even worse to some extent is where people just say, I'm giving up. I cannot go through this process. And there's one system that we know of, we cancelled it the other day. It was 16 clicks to book an appointment. Now, I'd invite you all to think about your own shopping habits. If you are booking an appointment for a haircut or whatever the case may be, imagine you're looking at your booking system. Would you book an appointment through that? Would you be put off? And certainly on 16 clicks, I would not be booking anything. I would go and find someone else. So booking systems are incredibly important from that perspective. Now, I don't want to get into the clinical aspects of the back end of the system in terms of what a physio might need or an osteopath might need, because that isn't necessarily my concern. I'm sure, and I'll mention some names, I'm sure that, whether it's TM3 or Clinico, maybe that's better from a clinical perspective than another system, but I don't want to speak to that because that isn't my expertise. So I want to really focus on the booking platform itself from a front-end perspective, i.e. the booking, and also to some extent the reporting, because reporting is also incredibly important. So that's my intro. That's why we're putting this on, and why it is close to my heart, and it should really be close to everybody's heart. You do all this hard work to get people to your website, to find you and your booking system. Most of the time, I would say, I'm going to say with probably 50% of the clinics that we work with, when we meet them, and there's a couple here, I can see, well, I've got a few here I can see, we've had these discussions. It's such a shame because they get to your platform, you spent this money, and people don't book in. So that's why we're covering this. We've got a few little topics and areas that we want to cover. You know, what should you look out for in the system, and so on and so forth. I do invite questions. So if anyone has questions, wants to just throw stuff at me, feel free to throw stuff at me. Sorry, Danny, I've been sort of just hogging the limelight here, but I will include Danny in some of this stuff because I think that'll be really interesting to see from his point of view and from Nookal's point of view, some of those things. So why don't actually let's start with that. So in terms of what I said about conversion rates and so on and so forth, is that something that you've seen? Is that something that you work towards improving with the product?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like we're all about. Like we get asked all the time about people who are looking to use online bookings, for example, and it's kind of especially since the pandemic started, it's been one of the most important things for like, how can we make this process, you know, simple for patients, but also we want to make it simple for clinicians. So I know you said you don't want to get too much into the clinical side from it, but from our side, it's really important that it's, you know, easy to set up and easy to edit from a clinician side, so you can make exactly what you want to have available, but then also from the client side, just to make it simpler than them having to pick up the phone.
And I think that's a crucial thing, isn't it? You want people to book online, so it needs to be simple for the patient. And people, you know, whether that's, and again, this isn't too much in my wheelhouse, but certainly patient forms, having automated patient forms and all of that stuff. I think that is important. I think let's just start. Let's go into the topics. And again, we can make this quite informal. So if people have questions, just throw them out, and we'll answer those. But let's start with what you should look for in the platform. So honestly, my number one is customer service. And I know people don't expect anyone to say that, but customer service is number one. And we have had this situation where not every system is perfect. In fact, there's not a single perfect system. There are always some problems, and the last thing you want, and Danny, I know, I don't want to call you out.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Your system breaks, systems break, things that don't make sense.
Yep.
You've got to make sure you've got that customer service, and to be quite honest, that's the same in any walk of life. You want that great customer service, and I think that's crucial. And with that comes responsiveness. And I've got to say, we as a company, we try and stay incredibly agnostic as to what who we recommend. I don't really care. I just don't. We want our customers to get the best. But I've got to say, one thing that we had with Nookal was where I said, okay, we're missing these features, and 2 days later you come back and say, oh yeah, we've done it. So if you can find responsive companies who can create a product towards you as an individual, but also that they're there to, if you want to pick up the phone to talk to them, then they're there. Then that's really important. So customer service number one. Right. What's next? What should you look for in a platform? Well, I think first of all, we should look at what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to encourage online bookings. It's supposed to make the journey of the patient as simple as possible. So you want what's called a really nice UI, and UI means user interface. How does it look? Some look fantastic, some don't. You want to make it look as, it needs to look as nice as possible. And then there's a UX, which is kind of how it's used. You want it to be simple. So I'll mention some systems. Nookal, obviously very nice. Acuity scheduling, I really like. It's incredibly cheap, but it's a great system. It probably doesn't do some of the things that advanced physicians need with SOAP notes and so on, but it's a great looking system and with a great interface. Clinico, really, really simple. It's nice, it's simple, it does what it says on the tin. And then there are some systems, and again, I don't want to get into the really bad ones at the risk of getting legal letters through the post tomorrow morning, but there are some really bad ones. And you'll probably know the ones that I'm not mentioning, the ones that I think are bad, but there are some bad ones which are just really complex, really complicated. And that goes on to, let's talk about the number of clicks. If it's well known that the more clicks that you have, the less likely someone is to buy something from you. So on a website, for example, when we're building a website for clients, for clinics, we want to find a way of making it possible for someone to say, okay, I want to know more about post-operative rehab, great, click through. And then we want to be able to send someone directly to the booking system. Now, ideally, that goes to an individual type of service. So if you if you are offering sports massage, let's say, I want to send someone directly to a place that says, okay, there's your sports massage product, go ahead and buy it. So the less clicks we have, the better. If you start having, like I said, with another platform we saw the other day, you start having 16 clicks, it's just too much. And really, if possible, 4 clicks or less to make a booking. If your booking system at the moment, or anything that you're looking at, is more than 4 clicks, and I'm really sorry, Danny, I don't know if Nookal is under 4 clicks, but if it's
I'm just
not,
thinking in my head.
you're thinking in your head, but it should be under 4 clicks, because ideally you want to be under 6, and someone's going to be on your website. If you're having to click here, click there, then enter phone numbers, then enter loads of other details on another page, it shouldn't be that simple. You're booking an appointment, not customizing a car to purchase. It's just not that complex. So that's really, really important. I think categories for services is another one. I see a lot of booking systems where they just have endless numbers of appointments all in a row. If your booking system doesn't offer categories, then that's also a problem. Payment, online payment. Now, we'll have a discussion later about whether online payment is a good idea or not. But certainly, I think online payment, things like subscriptions, I think that's really important. Discount codes, vouchers, sometimes, but certainly something that you would expect. Integrations is hugely important. Your systems should not be closed off systems where you can't get the data out. You can't link up with, let's say, Xero for your accounting. They should be able to integrate with all kinds of different payment systems. They should be able to integrate with accounting systems. And also, something that's really important, I think, is integrating with marketing. So I'm going to probably speak a bit of gobbledygook here for some people, but when you're running a marketing campaign and you're running an advert and you send someone to a website, in an ideal world, it's just costs you, let's say, £5 to send a person to a website. They've clicked on ad 1, they go through to the website, and then they complete a booking. I want to know, as a marketeer, I want to know what advert that person clicked on, what journey they took through the website, and then whether they booked an appointment or not. That's incredibly important for me and my company as a marketing business, because we want to know what ads are working and what aren't. You're running 15 ads, 100 ads, 1,000 keywords, treatment for bursitis, frozen shoulder, plantar fasciitis. If we don't have that data as to who booked through, we cannot optimize those campaigns. But actually, more importantly, if you're hiring us and we can't give you that data, that's a problem. Because you spend £1,000, £500, £200, £100. I've got some clients on here that are spending £100 a month. You want to make sure that it's worth spending that £100 a month. And if we can't give you that patient data, then how do we know it's worth spending that money? The other thing is, of course, if you're, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole here, but if you're running marketing campaigns on, let's say, Facebook and systems that have algorithms and learning, then you need Facebook to be able to communicate with those systems for it to learn properly and for you to get optimized results. So I won't go into this too much, but certainly I think there are only 2 systems that I can think of that actually implement and integrate with Google Tag Manager and Facebook Pixels. And no, there are 3. There are 3 systems. And the others just don't. Some claim they do, but they actually don't. So it's crucial, if you're going to do any kind of marketing, that you do that. And by the way, even if you're not running marketing, if you're just running Google Analytics and you want to know, someone hits your website, what path do they take, and then does that person complete a booking, even that, in terms of running goals through analytics and so on, is important, because you want to know what pages are working, what pages are not. So marketing, that's a big one. Hooking up with email systems is another one I made a note on. So there are very few products that actually hook up with, I see Danny laughing, he probably doesn't hook up with marketing email systems, but in an ideal world, you want to
hook
make
up
sure
with MailChimp. That's ours.
Well, that's wonderful. So being able to hook up to your MailChimp. So as an example, I'll just talk you through a really basic kind of example here. Someone books in for an appointment, they attend their appointment, they go onto your database. We want to be able to tag them with the appointment that they booked, sports massage, or post-op, or physiotherapy, or whatever the case may be. We want to tag them with that. We then want to send them, put them into an automation. So a person books in, 6 months later, they get a little message saying, or maybe 3 months or whatever you decide, hey, Bob, hope you're doing well. Hope you're feeling much better after your treatments. If you want to have a chat with us, if you've got any concerns, give us a call. So you want to be able to, and that's a very simple automation, but you want to be able to do that. If you are one of our clinics and slightly more advanced, you can do things like creating custom audiences. So for example, a person books in, so imagine 100 people book in, or you've got 1,000 people in database. They go in, they have the automations. Then what we do is we link that up with social media so that we run retention ads. So every 3 months, they start seeing just an advert with your clinic, nothing too onerous or aggressive, just, hey, here we are, just to let you know. So it's a really good way of retaining patients. And if you want to get really complex, you run some, I won't get into this too much, but you run lookalikes on those patients. So you create that patient audience, you know that they're your patients, and you tell Facebook or Google to go and find other people who look like your patient. This is really why, where you can get incredibly advanced and really get some fantastic results. So absolutely integrations with email systems. Otherwise, this whole idea of kind of trying to export the data, or I know one clinic that came on board not so long ago who were manually sending out emails to people, and they were getting 100 patients a month, new patients a month. And that was a lot of manual work. So ideally integrating with systems. MailChimp is obviously the obvious one. I quite like ActiveCampaign. If you've got tons of money, HubSpot, but have a look around. And at the very least, actually, if they don't integrate directly, then if you can use a tool like Zapier, and I don't know if Nookal connects with Zapier, but if you can use a tool like Zapier, then that's all the better. Right, another thing I think is reporting and data. And again, I don't want to get too much into that because it's just not my area of expertise within clinic. But from my perspective, if I'm a clinic owner, I want to very quickly be able to report on what data I have, my patient data. How many people booked in sports massage last month? What was the revenue against that? What is that compared to the previous month? I want to see what my total number of appointments were this time last year versus this time this year. If you can't get ready access to that data, then there's a problem. I spend a lot of time on the phone with clinic owners. I'm honestly 3-4 hours every single day. And I ask those questions. How many bookings did you have last month? Oh my God, let me try and find out. And then it's, clicking 4 or 5 different buttons, and then it shouldn't be that difficult. It should be really, really, really simple. And I know there are some products out there which are fantastic, and then some of it are just terrible. And also, don't believe the hype. A lot of vendors will tell you that they do reporting, and when you actually look at it and drill down, the reporting isn't even correct. And I see that all the time. So yeah, it's really important to have that reporting. And to some extent, and again, this is more of an in-clinic thing, I see Celia Champion on the call. Actually, she's one of our lovely friends who does a lot of the in-clinic consulting and business consulting. This is probably more her purview, but it'd be really great to see, for example, this physiotherapist has seen this many patients, and their average patient retention is 4, whereas this physiotherapist, the average patient retention is 1. Now, that's the kind of data that would be great to have from a booking system, so you can quite quickly make decisions. Because if one of your physios or 2 of your physios are getting a retention rate of 1 and everyone else is 6, then obviously there's a bit of an issue. So having all of that data and being able to tie that data together is incredibly important. And at the same time, actually, I think from a marketing perspective and also a business perspective, and we do a little bit of business consulting, we ask questions like, what's your cost per patient? What's your profit per patient? And that's actually where the booking system can really come in useful. It's important that, especially if it integrates with Xero and you can put all of your profit and loss in there and so on. So certainly reporting is a key one. Do you want to talk about reporting as well, Danny?
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. For us, reporting is very important. I would say Nookal kind of came into fruition because the founder, Darren, when he was owning his own clinic, he thought he had two main reasons, kind of a usability gap and a data gap. So he was going in there and he was like, he's very much a physio. He's very emotive. So when he was sitting down and doing appraisals of a physio or an osteo, he was very much coming across me like, oh yeah, I feel like you're a really good person. And they didn't have any numbers to back it up, but I feel like you're doing a good job. So that's good enough.
So here's a question for you. Here's a question.
Yeah.
What percentage of people actually use the reporting properly or to its fullest extent?
Okay, that's such a good question. So I don't have the exact number, but I would say it's shockingly low, like something like 20%. Because you get a lot of people, and the really nice thing that I see is, people get started with Nookal and they are using it maybe for like 6 months or a year, or with any system, say, but you're talking to a clinic owner, and then maybe 2 years down the line, they'll hit you and be like, what about this report? I want to track this. And you're like, yeah, it's been there the whole time. The utilization.
It's funny. It's very much. It's very much. In my old corporate days, I used to do a lot of financial reporting, ERPs, and so on. And people would say, I don't think Excel does what I need it to do. And when you explore it, the majority of people use about 1% of Excel. They can click on sum and that's about it. But they're certainly not running pivot tables or multi-dimensional analysis. So it was just an interesting one, because I think that even when reporting is there, so this is a bit of a tip for people, even when reporting's there, people aren't actually using it properly. They may want to, the most they'll do is look at how many appointments did I have this month compared to last. But there is so much more data from there that's worth looking at. And by the way, a really good example of this is something that we had recently, where we were running campaigns and various things for two services. One was physiotherapy, and one was, actually there were three. There was neuro, there was post-operative, and there was general MSK. And when we actually looked at some of the numbers that were coming through, it turned out that it was incredibly cheap to get the MSK patients, but the MSK value per patient was about £140, so the lifetime value, whereas the neuro patient was about £1,400. And so we used that reporting, we looked at that data, and we thought, well, what is the point in spending, £20, whatever the number was, to get a physio appointment through, when you could spend £50 and make 1,000 times more money. So again, that's where the reporting can become really useful, is making those business decisions. And so I think it's crucial. Not many people do it. Make sure you all do. Right.
And just to touch, lastly on that is also, I think you're right on the money. And I think it's also good because when you look at the reports section of your system, you might think like, this is very overwhelming. There are too many reports. So it's good to kind of find like the 5 or 6 reports you need, maybe even less. But just like to specialize in those specific ones, because a lot of times there's a lot of overlap. You don't need to be running like 10 reports,
No, keep it simple. I always think, absolutely. Keep things simple, but make sure that I'll disagree with you there. I think it's more than 5. I think it's probably around 10 to 15. That's what I would want to see if I had a clinic. But yeah, if you can get someone to use 5, it's better than 1. Baby
steps, Mike. Baby steps.
Baby steps. Don't make it too complex. All right, what's the next thing that we wanted to look at? What are the red flags to look out for? Well, what are the red flags that we see? First of all, bad customer service. I said it before in what we want, but certainly bad customer service. It's an absolute killer. And we get a real world example. I want to give you all real world examples. I had a clinic who joined a new company for their booking platform. They couldn't actually get it. I mean, the pre-sales was wonderful. It was, we're going to help you out. Everything's wonderful. And then when it came to, actually, it's not working and nothing is working, can you help me? It was 5 days. And I had to actually call that company to say, listen, my customers on this system, sort it out. And it was only when I had done that, because they wanted to keep in my good books, because we obviously work with a lot of people. Until I did that company didn't help. So really important customer service. red flags, other red flags. Oh, big one, contracts. I don't know what Nookal contracts are, so I'm going to be calling you out. And it's really useful to have Danny here. I hope you can tell that this is not me trying to help him sell systems at all. But contracts are a big one, hidden contracts.
Yes, it's very unscripted.
But we keep coming across companies who, sign up for free for 2 months or do X, Y, Z, or here's your offer. And then, I'm not too sure about it. And then boom, you're in for 12 months, you're in for 24 months. So anything with, and to be perfectly honest, anything with a contract, I would stay away from. You don't contract your patients to rehab, right? If someone doesn't want to use you after 2 months, go away. If a company is confident in their customers, why tie people in unless there's a very good reason? I mean, I can understand, for example, let's say the company says, I'm going to give you £1,000 worth of training and spend 2 days with you. Of course, then tie you in for a 6 month period or whatever. But in general terms, I think contracts, look out for that. Don't go with that. I think another one is actually systems where problematic. A real problem is systems that don't allow you to book in with specific practitioners. That's a key one. Within healthcare, people by people, particularly in healthcare, because you trust that that person. And sometimes it's a case of, I remember my first ever physio appointment, I booked it because he was Irish and he liked a beer and he did a lot of weightlifting. And I read that profile and I wanted to book in with him because I had that affinity. And so booking systems that don't allow you to book in with a practitioner with a nice picture and so on, that's a problem. So make sure that they have that, if possible. What are the red flags? Give me some red flags, Danny. Or have I got them all?
I think just going off of what you said about contracts, I would say contracts good, like rolling basis is the number one. Most systems are doing it now, or most systems should be doing it at least, but also make sure that you're asking people before you move, before you shift, like how you can get your data out of there. GDPR rules, it's your data, so you should be able to get your data out of there at any point. And we had again, not naming any names, but we had a situation last year where people were kind of, getting wishy-washy about, oh, hey, we'll get you the data, but we're going to give it to you in our own time. And that's not really good enough,
That's actually a really good one. Data is, and we'll come on to, should it be easy to move systems? Yep. Data should be easy to transfer. It is not, it's data. It's not trillions of terabytes of, multi-dimensional data. It's an Excel, it's a CSV. It just click a button and download it. And we do spend a lot of time. I probably oversimplified it there a bit, but we do spend a lot of time with clients who just simply cannot get data out. And so sometimes we use our clout and say, listen, guys, you best let this happen. And normally they help. Otherwise, it's your data. Take them to court. Genuinely, just take them to court. Threaten them with a solicitor's letter. They will let you have the data. To be perfectly honest, it's patient data. So they need to be really careful. It's just bad companies trying to hold on to you. And again, that's another red flag. Anyone that does anything that tries to make you stay is just not where we want to be. So absolutely, data is a big one. Make sure you can get that data out. And also just, I don't know about your system, Danny, but I think in all honesty, you should be able to click a button, just export an Excel CSV with the emails if you wanted to. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to do that. So absolutely, yeah. I see we've got a few questions or a few comments actually. I haven't been looking at those.
Yeah, I see there's a question in there from Celia.
Ideally, we want our clients to get the most important stats on one page, as few pages as possible, depending on the size of clinic. Tricky for practice management software developers, as different clinics want different stats. One-click dashboard would be amazing. Well, absolutely. Data visualization is one of my pet topics. There are some brilliant products out there, probably too expensive for most clinics, but actually, Danny, I don't know the answer to this, but certainly with a lot of clinics, it would be really great to plug in something like Watergraph, or plug in something like Tableau, or plug in Click, or some kind of data visualization tool. Is that possible with Nookal, and is that difficult? Oh, Target Dashboard. So if it's so a client of mine uses Target Dashboard. expensive. Yeah. So if it's the same target, I used to work for those guys. It can be expensive, yes. But how difficult is it to open up the data to a third-party product?
I would say it's difficult, exactly what Celia's spot on. It's mostly because there's not I think you already hit on the money too. There's not a one size fits all for what everyone wants. Otherwise it'd be easy to just pop one dashboard on. The way we've tried to do it, and I'm sure each system has done it in a different way. But the way we've tried to do it is by giving a customized dashboard to each person that logs in. It's the first page that they see. And it's not customizable right now, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But it would be, if I'm the owner, for example, I log in and I'm seeing revenue for last week. Or versus if I'm a practitioner, I'm logging in, I'm seeing my booking numbers for last week. So that's kind of the start of where we're going with it. But it is something we're looking at customizing in the future. But yeah, it's a tricky one to get exactly right.
Is that customizable by the clinic, or is that reports that you're pre-customizing, if you like?
It's like the same reports in Nookal, but it's just getting them visualized in there based on if you're the account owner, you see XYZ, and if you're a practitioner, you see XYZ. So a bit specific in that case.
This is an interesting one because actually that moves into red flags, which is roadmaps, development roadmaps. So for those of you who aren't tech, a development roadmap is where a vendor or a supplier of a digital product has a roadmap for when things are going to be implemented. So, it might be, okay, we don't currently take PayPal as a payment method. We are going to implement that in February, in March, or whatever. If the booking system doesn't have a development roadmap, that normally screams to me there's a problem, because any serious software company should have that roadmap. They don't always make it public, to be honest, because development isn't quite so easy, because it's not quite so easy as saying, we'll do that in March, because you do it and then suddenly everything breaks. So they don't always make it public, but the good ones do. And certainly ask about it. Ask what that development roadmap is. And again, I don't want to, just focus on you and Nookal, but I think certainly
spot on there.
It's often on the list and never comes up. But certainly Nookal, I've seen that, and they have kept to their word in terms of, we'll change that and we'll do that. Although I've got one bone to pick, we'll do that another time where something isn't working quite right. But that's what you want from a developer, is the ability to say, this isn't working, or I want this. When is it on your roadmap? And if they can say and come back like Danny has, it's going to be on the, it wasn't on the roadmap, but actually it's a really good idea, let's do it, and then does it, all the better. So development roadmaps.
I would say one thing you could ask, just to go off that, just one thing you could ask and keep companies, like keep us honest too. It's a question that I love to get and I also hate to get, is kind of like, oh, what's the last big feature you put out? And like, how long did it take? And then what's the next big feature you're putting out? And how long do you think that'll take? Because that'll force force whoever you're talking to, whatever system, to give you an honest answer, or hopefully a more honest answer than being like, oh yeah, that'll be fine in a couple of months, instead of just pushing you off,
So let's take this opportunity. This wasn't on the agenda. I'm going to put you right on the spot. Let's take the opportunity.
I asked for
this is for people who are looking to switch to a system or buy a new system, whatever. What are the questions you really don't want to get, and what are the questions that people should be asking? So what questions should someone definitely ask, and what are the ones you don't like?
Ooh. The ones there's some ones that I don't like. This is good. Because I like keeping it all up front, but there's some automation that we could definitely improve. And so when people ask me about like automating client forms, for example, that's always, sometimes I'm like, no, because that's something that I think is like it's a no-brainer. We need to solve it. It's ones like that where they're like, yes, we know we need to do it and we haven't done it yet. So questions similar to that. For questions that you should definitely be asking is, just seeing a patient workflow. I think a lot of times, like from start to finish, a lot of times people aren't really interested in the online booking. Even they think maybe we'll look at it in 6 months, but even if you don't want to look at it right away, it's so important to just see how it could look in the future and get the full patient journey going through, like all the way through a booking, and then all the way to when a booking's finished and following up with the patient.
Mm. So that brings me on to one thing, which is companies that don't offer free trials. I think if you, God, you're going to say you don't offer a free trial, but I think people who don't,
I'm not going to.
People who don't allow you to trial the software, there is no reason that, and trust me, every single company has a demo, what would you call it, Danny? A demo.
A demo account, like whatever they're using account. Whenever you see a demo.
Everyone will have a demo account.
Populated data. Yeah.
Everyone will have one with data in. If they don't let you on it, just walk away. Like there's no reason that they shouldn't let you on it. And the other one is people who don't give you pricing. This bothers me. Why are you hiding your pricing? It's not that difficult. How many practitioners? What's the onboarding cost? We actually did some secret shopper stuff. This was last year because we were writing a document. We still haven't finished it, but we were putting together a document on all the different booking systems. It was a bit of an analysis of how they all sort of operate. And one of the things that you don't know until you're a customer is actually the customer service and how they interact with you and so on and so forth. And there was one system, a very famous system, which we bought for actually my girlfriend's physio clinic, which we bought. And it's funny just how different the pricing was once you started adding the things that you thought were just part of the offering in the first place. And it's funny how the customer service just went completely dry as soon as you had paid your money. So I absolutely, I think pricing is an important one. Make sure they can tell you it up front. There's no reason that it should be on the website. Right, you still haven't answered any of the questions you don't like being asked too much. I'm gonna pick up on that at the end of this thing. So you
let me write a few of these down.
Yeah,
I want to give away all the secrets, you know?
It's great to see from someone in the industry and a provider of the software, like, you know, what don't you like being asked? What are the questions you should be asking people? And I mean, a couple of them we've come up with. What's your product roadmap? I think that's a really interesting one. But let's see if you can come up with any more. May as well put you on the spot. Right. So we're on to next topic. I just wanted to cover was: is it that hard to move from one booking tool to another? It absolutely can be. 100% it can be. Normally because they don't give you their data. If you have the data, the answer is no. And I want to pick up on a few aspects here, and I'd invite Danny in a second to talk about this a bit as well. But the very first thing I always hear is, we have 25,000 patient records. How are we possibly going to put them all into our new booking system? Or sometimes it's, I've got 5,000 pieces of paper. How am I going to get them all into my new booking system, my practice management system? It's going to be impossible. And I always say, how many people have you seen in the last year? And it's like 300. Okay, well, the rest of the data is not that important at this stage. So don't ever worry about how much data you have and whether you can get it into the system, because quite honestly, you don't need all the data from, you know, Bob from 20 years ago who had a dodgy hip. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing is, as much as you think you have a lot of data, it's actually breadcrumbs. It's tiny. Danny, we actually talked about this the other day. Like, you know, when you're in development, you're used to working with terabytes of data, not 64 kilobytes or 300 megabytes of a text file. So it is actually really easy to import. Another thing that I often sort of come across is, and I know two clients on here at the moment are struggling with this decision, which is, I need to retrain everyone to use that tool. It's such a big job. I've got 6, 7, 8 people on it. I need to do, you know, it's not just I need to shut the clinic down for 5 days or a weekend, and I need to bring everybody in for training. If you need to do that, you've got the wrong system. You're moving to the wrong system. It is not that difficult. The other thing I would say is, yeah, sure, it's going to take a bit of work, but you need to make that monetary decision between, what is my booking system costing me in lost revenue or lost time or whatever calculation you have, and you factor in, versus how much work is it going to be to change it. And I know, again, real world data, I know one clinic that in month one, by moving, and they had four clinicians. Yeah, they had 4 clinicians and 1 part-time. In the first month of moving, doing exactly the same things, they had just over 60 extra patients at £60. Yeah, it was £60 a patient. It's too late. It's almost 8 o'clock. I can't do the maths, but 60 patients with £60, 61 patients at £60. It's probably worth a day of your work and time to make that change in a single month, let's remember. The other thing is, of course, there's that monetary investment of how much you're currently spending for with a system. And I know there are some people paying £300, £400, £500 a month when they really, if they looked at what's available now, could get much better quality, much better performance, much better reporting, as well as better conversions for half that price or a third of that price, or even £60. So, you need to put all of these things together. So is it hard to move? It shouldn't be. If it's because the other tool doesn't give you the data, well, that's easily resolvable. Call me and I'll have a shout at them. If it's because the new system is too difficult to use, well, then you've chosen the wrong system. Go and find something relatively simple. And by the way, we have helped one clinic move on to a system recently, and it was a breeze. We set it up for them, actually. We did the entire setup, relatively technical, and we set it up for them, and it was simple. That was it. It was done. And the clinicians, they all, they had no problem with it either. So, and picked it up very, very quickly. So yeah, it shouldn't take you weeks to retrain people on the system. It is an important one, because we do always get asked that question, or it's, or normally we're the ones that say you need to change things around, and people say, it's too difficult, it's going to cost me too much money, and when you actually do the monetary calculation, it's a no-brainer. But people are often scared, and I always say, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Danny, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. Was our Halloween motto. Don't be scared about the migrating the data. But I'd say if you're migrating data, it doesn't matter if you're going, like, I'll talk a little bit about Nookal's process, but if you're migrating from any system, it's not hard, like Michael said, but it does take time. So it's really important that you do have someone, if it's not you as a clinic owner, or that it's not you as a clinic owner, then it would be like the practice manager, or your lead admin person who's responsible for it. They own it, and that once you make the decision, then they're committed to it and they're going to put some time into it, because it is important to have a liaison between like the two systems. That's just something that I think is really important. But yeah, I think converting the data in that case, it's as long as you have that one person who's committed to it, it keeps everything kind of moving along quickly. And then there's steps that go along with it. Like for us, it takes 4 weeks. There's like 8 steps, but that's the way that we keep making sure that you don't miss out on any patients. So you don't have to shut down your clinic for a couple of days in order to start up with a new system. You can just kind of keep running it along smoothly. But yeah, I think it's,
let me stop you there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because 4 weeks sounds really scary.
Well, the reason for 4
weeks, or is it like, explain the 4 weeks?
Yeah, so the 4 weeks, it's like a 4-week waiting period is what we call it. So the 4 weeks is at the start, you come to me, let's say you come to me, you're a clinic owner, and you say, hey, I want to come to Nookal. And I say, okay, great. We'll book you in a weekend, 4 weeks from now, for when you're going to switch over. We migrate your data on Friday, and then you start from that Monday. So it's not, it sounds scary, but think about how fast it is from now until,
no, that's fine. I think people might have just been, because I think 4 weeks sounds somewhat reasonable actually, but I think people may have just sat there and thought, oh my God, I'm going to have 4 weeks of work to do. What you're saying is I sign up and in 4 weeks time we do it, but you do the migration in between.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, I can see how that could be like 4 weeks of work. Like, oh my God, yeah,
4 weeks.
Yeah,
that's
no,
crazy.
It's not going to be 4 full weeks of your life. That would be we'd have to
okay.
pay you for that. Yeah.
Right, so we've got a few other sort of brief topics. I do again invite any questions, just ask away.
Yeah, please.
On anything really, but ask away. But got a few other things that I thought quite interesting. So we've sort of covered it, but what difference does the system really make? I just want to really sort of hammer down on that one. It makes a huge difference, or it can make a huge difference. We see it every single day when we are moving people to different platforms. It just in terms of online bookings and reduction of phone calls, and it's I don't think when moving, well, actually, so moving to a bad system is almost worse. And in fact, I spoke to funny enough, I spoke to a competitor of ours a couple of days ago. Really lovely guy. I want to try and hire him. Really lovely guy. He works with a massive clinic, and I can't give you exact numbers, but he was working with this big clinic, and they've just moved to another tool, and that was just over a month ago. And I think they've got actually, I can't say how many, multi clinic sites, and they moved to this new tool about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, and he is sat there just tearing his hair out because bookings have just gone to zero. They've absolutely dried up. What they've had to do is increase the they have a call center actually for their clinics. So they've actually had to increase staff to service all the extra phone calls that they're getting. Now that's on a massive scale, obviously, with 5-10 plus clinics or whatever. But certainly, when a booking system like that, when you see that sort of difference, it's scary. And for our clients, the majority of clients, we aren't dealing with 15 clinic. Well, actually, 1 or 2 we do, but in general, we are only talking 5 patients a week, 10 patients a week. But when let's say 5 patients a week, average of £50, it's 200. That's a lot of money, and they come back 3 times. You're talking about that's £1,000 a week that you can drop by not having the right system in place. And of course, you can increase your cost in phone calls and not picking up the phone because you can't answer it fast enough, and so on and so forth. So it's certainly important from that point. And again, just get back to the marketing. You can reduce your marketing spend by 30% by getting a better booking system. Well, that's if the booking system costs the same and you can reduce your marketing spend by 30%, just made a 30% saving. That's not a small amount of money across the course of a year. And I'll give you another real world example. I don't like this one, but we had a clinic who they were on a system and we were doing their marketing for them, and we built them a new website and got in a new booking system. After probably within 2 months, got a nice phone call saying, "Listen, Michael, we love it. It's great. Everything's going great, but we don't need your marketing anymore because we've got enough patients coming through." So if you're our clients, don't move booking systems. But it's really nice to see. It's really nice to see, and that's the kind of difference it can make. And it is important from all of those aspects. What are the other things that we were going to talk about? Oh, this is more of a general question, which is, it always comes up. Should you be taking payment via your booking system?
We were talking about this in the chat beforehand.
We were talking about this, and I think Celia's still on. Celia might have some interesting thoughts on this, but I have data on this, and it's really, really interesting. What I would say is, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if you are getting a lot of no-shows, and I can't define a lot, but we'll just say a lot of no-shows, then I can see the case for taking payment online. And we're talking about general MSK appointments here, by the way. I'm not talking about other things you might be doing, whether that's a Pilates course or whatever. But for your general appointment, unless you're getting a lot of no-shows, don't go with payment. Don't go with it. Why do I say that? Well, whenever we've seen people put payment on their website, one of 2 things happens, or both things happen. Bookings reduce straight off. There's absolutely there's not been a single time I haven't seen bookings not decrease. So bookings definitely decrease, and phone calls often increase. The other thing that you tend to get is you tend to get, no, I'm not going to go on to that because that's a little bit subjective. Let's stick with the data. The data says if you add payments to the booking system, you will reduce appointments and you will potentially increase telephone calls. And actually, a really good analogy of this is I remember I used to, before COVID, I used to go out to restaurants a lot. And OpenTable was my source of going to book restaurants and so on. And I remember when I went to book a restaurant place and it said, this place now requires a £50 deposit. And I was like, oh my God, where's my credit card? I don't, and in the end, and then I thought, actually, do I really want to go? I need to check with a few people first. I would have booked and I would have gone. And so you are again putting, it's a bit like clicks, right? You're putting a barrier in between someone making a decision and actually going through and booking it. So again, if you don't get no shows, don't put it on, in my opinion. The other thing I would say is, and I do not know if any system does this, but if you are going to have, I don't know the answer to this question, but if you're going to have online payment with your booking system, the system should allow Apple Pay and Google Pay. So if I'm on my phone and I'm playing some music on Spotify. Oh my God, that's my things come on. My things just come on. Give me 1 second. I'm really sorry. That was my Google responding to me talking about Google. Anyway, I don't even know what song that just came up with. That was a random song.
I was hoping you were going to start singing.
If I'm on the, I did a seminar the other day. Celia mentioned it as well. I did a seminar the other day, and the dog just started barking and running up and down the stairs. It's not ideal, all this working from home, is it? Yeah. So what I was saying was, if I'm on my phone and I'm booking an appointment, and you're asking for payment, I don't want to have to go and find a credit card. I don't want to have to go and find payment details. I want to be able to go, oh yeah, Apple Pay, double click, and it's booked. I don't know if your system does it. I don't know if any system does it, but that's certainly a winner because again, you get huge drop-offs. So we do, obviously, we do a lot of stuff, whether it's with Physio Matters or courses. I don't know, what did we do recently? Like the shoulder course, Adam Meakin's shoulder course, you do marketing for that. And when you have that ability to quickly click on Apple Pay, you see a massive increase of bookings and a decrease in drop-offs. So do you do that, Danny? Do you know if anybody does?
I don't know. I know that we don't do it, so I can say that. I don't know if anyone else does it. I think it's pretty rare because it'll be someone like MindBody who would do it. That would, I would say, would be the closest person to do it. I don't know if they do it for sure, but I'd say if anyone does it, it'd be more someone who's in the specifically class space.
Yeah, I imagine they don't. I wonder if Acuity Scheduling does it, possibly, but it's something, stick that on your roadmap. I think that is, if someone is wanting to book, make it as easy as possible for them to pay. I think Celia said, I think though that people are more used to
because we can't use Stripe.
Nigel says, I think this is Nigel, our very lovely customer. It would be great if you could, as we can't use Stripe. I think, without giving too much away and identifying people, but I think the reason Nigel can't use Stripe is because of where he is located, I believe. Give me a yes to that, Nigel. But I think that's why he can't use Stripe. Yes. Okay, good.
Thumbs up. There you go.
Thumbs up. So I think that's, yeah. However, Stripe is actually what mostly powers Apple Pay. That's kind of the issue. What are your thoughts on?
That'd be the same with.
What are your thoughts on?
Is that we keep you talking. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, what are your thoughts on online payments and taking payment when making a booking?
Kind of like we were talking about before. It's interesting. Like I see Celia here saying, I think that people are more used to paying when booking. I think that might have been a difference that happened in the last 18 months too, where it became more of a habit for people to pay online. There you go, Celia, definitely. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I think you would know that as well, really well. And so when I'm talking to clinic owners or practice managers, I generally recommend having the payment required for the initial bookings because I think it creates a more onus on the person to actually show up. Whereas with the follow-up bookings, I think that's more up to your own discretion. If you don't have a lot of no-shows, then it's fine. You create less of a barrier to actually making those online bookings, especially if it's going to be in clinic. But back when everything was virtual, I think collect as much payment as you can.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it does come down to no-shows, because if you reduce by putting on patient bookings, let's assume you have 0 no-shows, and you will reduce bookings. There's absolutely no question about that. I'll stake a very lovely bottle of wine or whiskey on it. You will reduce bookings, and if you're not getting no-shows and it isn't a concern for you, then I think you'd be very hard pressed to want to take online payment. Other than, and let's be fair, I suppose there's this which is efficiency. I suppose there is an efficiency to having the payment go through. You're not having to deal with it in clinic and doing payments, and it's just so I can see maybe there is an efficiency angle, certainly. Michelle says, I thought the same, agree here, but I had not thought about it putting people off, and yet it would probably put me off. Yeah, Michelle, I think there are some certainties, and again, our business is marketing and commercial stuff and making sales in whatever area of healthcare that is. And I can tell you now, there is, with an absolute degree of certainty, when you put barriers in place, you will put people off. It's not even an argument. So the question is always, it's got to be that question of how many people does it put off versus how many no-shows do you get? And I know, so I happen to know a Michelin-starred restaurant owner not too far from where I live, who he decided, because he was having too many no-shows, he decided to put an online booking, a deposit down. It was £50 deposit, again on OpenTable, and he took that off after a week. No one was booking. It was just gone. So he made that calculation of, I'd rather have 5 no-shows a night than not have anyone coming in at all. Celia says, I had a client who implemented payment upfront for new patients and went to 0 no-shows where they had over 20%, but interestingly, they didn't have a drop in new patients. Yeah, okay. I would go with, I would go with that's fantastic.
I think outlier.
Probably a client that we share, Celia, so it's probably because of us. But I mean that is unusual. And okay, so certainly, so let's just say you can't say no drop, didn't have a drop in new patients, because 1 month it's 50, the next month is 54, then it's 48. So you can't say it's with absolute certainty there's not a drop. But certainly if on average the patient numbers stayed the same, but you decreased no-shows, then yes, I would say that would make a difference. The other thing, and I am a big data person, how many people are calling to book the appointment instead of going through the booking system? So that's another thing, because you may end up having the same number of patients, but maybe people are just using a different avenue to make that booking. And so that's, again, without seeing people's data, I can't, you can't make anything on that. But it's an interesting open discussion. We talk about it all the time. We often implement it. We often stop it and take it off. It's one of those interesting topics. And I think it's probably a case-by-case basis to some extent. Okay.
I had thought about before we got about two minutes left, but I thought about another question that I don't like being asked, that I think is a really good one for everyone on here to ask any booking system is, if you do a little bit of research, you say, this booking system can do this, why can't you?
That's a good one. That's
good. You put people on the spot, make them a little uncomfortable, and then you can kind of see what the priorities are for each booking system, and whether or not they kind of share your vision, because you want that booking system to share your clinic's growth vision.
It's also a great way of, and this brings us on to another topic, but it's a great way of getting discounts. So what I would used to do, and still do sometimes,
True.
I did this with a a support ticketing system recently. I got all the features from one that I didn't want, and I went to the one that I did want, and I said, look, here's all the things, I'm trying to make a decision. And the salesman was like, oh my God, yeah, we don't have those on our roadmap, and so on and so forth. I ended up getting quite a big discount by going to them with those features, and they just thought, yeah, we're going to take him, otherwise it's going to go somewhere else.
Don't use that on us. Just kidding.
What's the best way of getting a discount on Clinic software?
Ooh.
I'm completely. Danny's like, I don't.
That's a question I don't like getting. I would say it's 8 p.m. Michael. I can't answer this question.
He doesn't want to answer. Here's the actual true answer, or the correct answer. There's a price on the box for a reason. Our product is good enough. You're not getting a discount.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the answer, of course. But I think certainly, looking at what other systems do, and the last thing the salesperson wants to hear is, I'm looking at these 5 systems and I've got this matrix of research. Can you spend the next 2 weeks telling me what you can do and what you can't do, and take me? So the moment you do that, that's the best way of getting a discount. Here is all of the research I've done. You're going to have to spend 2 months selling me a £50 a month package. Do you know what? You can have it for 30. Right, we are now over time.
Yeah.
Sorry,
there's the last thing. I think it's a good question to ask you. Don't be afraid to ever ask that question. I don't think any physio or any healthcare professional ever is afraid to ask that question. But I think it's really good, because it's good to see what people prioritize, and kind of also for yourself, what value you put into the system. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is.
We are coming up. Well, we're over time
now.
now. So if anyone has any questions, pop them in. If anyone, so pop those in. In the meantime, there's one question we haven't answered yet, which is probably the one that most people want to know, which is, what system would we recommend? Right now, there are 3 systems that we would recommend. Obviously, Nookal. Why do we like Nookal? Because actually, you're just responsive. You're really nice guys. You're really responsive. Absolutely, Nookal. I think from a feature set as well, it's fantastic. And customer service. You can get Danny on the phone, look at his ugly mug all the time, and speak to him. If you are a smaller clinic and you don't need a lot of the kind of more advanced clinical stuff, acuity scheduling is fantastic. It's incredibly cheap. To be perfectly honest, if you're looking at Nookal, you're probably not looking at acuity scheduling. And I'm going to, just for this, I want to be completely honest, and whether Danny's here or not, I think Clinico is definitely another option. I think there are some reasons why I would definitely go with Nookal over Clinico. I would say that Clinico is definitely a good system. It's one we would, and I have to be honest, no matter who's here, if I owned a clinic, those are the 3 tools I would be looking at. If you ask me who I would definitely go for, I personally, from a personal perspective, on a cheap level, not needing anything clinical, I might go for acuity. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would probably most likely go for Nookal. But have a chat with Danny, have a chat with whoever. I think a lot of the time it is very much a personal opinion. If I haven't mentioned the product, it's safe to assume, because I've now mentioned 3, it's safe to assume I wouldn't recommend them at this stage. They would have to prove to me something a bit more than what we've seen so far. So that's my answer on that. Anyone that wants any advice, and certainly our customers, if you want to have a chat afterwards, let me know. Just drop me an email. Anyone that wants to get in touch with us to talk about marketing or website, any of that good stuff, pop onto hmdg.co.uk, go and check us out. Come and have a chat with me. More than happy to have a chinwag. Danny, I think you've got an offer, actually. I'm letting you sell at this point. So go ahead.
I'll give you a 15-second soundbite. But yeah, exactly. So we've got a little offer. It's basically 1 hour free setup call and then a free data migration. And that's it. And so if you listen to this, you'll probably get an email. You won't get any spam. Don't worry about that. You'll just get one email that pops you over to a link for that. So if you want to sign up for that, you can do that through there. Or if you just want to hop on a call and see what Nookal's about, also happy to have a chat.
And if you don't, you're practically losing money. practically, you know. Right, so
Scary season. Don't do it.
any questions before we jump? We have bored you all into submission and sleep.
I think everyone's had a few drinks.
All right.
Maybe
Thank you very much. Everyone's had a
go to
glass of
sleep now.
wine. Thanks, Teresa. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Therese. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Gemma. Yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. Yeah, we realize it is late, yeah, so thank you very much. And anything you need, give us a shout. Lovely.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.